Japanese student Retsuki Kakuyama gets his ass yeeted by a truck cut into an isekai world right after getting into a dream university. Why guy is reborn in a peasant's house instead of one of those amazing, rich noble incarnations, so Truck Hun really had some beef with him. His family is pretty trash, and he gets bullied for having black, Asian hair, which is considered an oddity in this world. Thankfully, Bro's life levels up the moment a system notification greets him, making him feel like he's finally about to win. Those hopes are immediately crushed when the system literally calls him an effing nobody loser with zero chance of success. Now, he has no choice but to grind his ass off to shove down the family debt. Our boy thought he might excel by becoming the second coming of Da Vinci or maybe a powerful knight, and one day, those dreams actually start to manifest when he runs into a grizzly bear. Ian and his sister's lives are saved thanks to a mage vaporizing that fat Teletubby. He has no idea what a powerful mage is doing in a village like this, but the woman definitely sparks the boy's curiosity. She explains that she received a prophecy to search for a black-haired boy in the hopes of raising him. Realizing that Ian fits the description perfectly, she takes a keen interest in him, while the kid is just standing there questioning how the hell she managed to one-shot that giant bear. Apparently, anyone can become a mage, and that thought gives Ian hope, making him dream of one day using magic himself. The kind woman assures him that, despite being a peasant, he can change his fate and become a mage. She even offers to teach him magic, and the boy finally realizes he can reverse his shitty odds by accepting the deal. The mage takes her new student to a little study room, where Ian immediately meets his first powerful opponent, a heavy textbook containing the absolute basics of magic titled Moronius. And by the way, the mage actually formally visited his home to get permission from his parents and even the city lord, just to make sure there wouldn't be any trouble later. With everyone now expecting great things from him, Ian is ready to do his absolute best. She preps him for the first lesson while the boy's system slowly tracks his progress. As he flips through the book, Moronius reaches a 27 completion rate. Several other heavy textbooks, and weird Harry Potter-style spell names later, the boy eventually hits a 99 completion rate. Once Moronius is fully mastered, the boy can utilize the magical language perfectly and understand exactly how mages use it. 7 whole years pass. Yeah, that's a massive time skip spent on his education, and somehow, this mage baddie looks exactly the same as she did before. She believes their private tutorship has reached its end. Now that Ian has grown up considerably, it's time for them to take the next step together. The boy's current and only skill is his knowledge of the magical language, and the ability to manipulate it. In the next scene, we witness mass rising mountains under a serene sky, but underneath this beautiful horizon, Ian is getting his ass kicked while falling from the sky. He shouts his complaints at his master for going too fast, but it's pretty clear the teacher is enjoying this way too much. Bro is literally shaking in fear, arguing that he only learned a damn language over the past 6 years, so it's not like he's a proper mage or anything yet. His teacher watches him with intrigue while Bro is practically begging to be saved. High up in the sky, Mage Mommy ushers him to try and own in on the voices around him. Meanwhile, Bro is out here thinking the psycho might be schizophrenic, because who the hell can hear voices in a place like this? The only sound he hears right now is the rippling wind, but strangely enough, when Ian focuses really hard, he hears the whispers and gossip of some entities who seem impressed that a human is actually flying. This takes our boy by surprise, making him wonder if this is the indicative voice of Moronius. Having managed to hear those voices, the system notifies him that he's unlocked a new skill called Air Art, allowing him to manipulate wind magic. I just love how Bro's first practical skill is him literally becoming Superman. After that rigorous training session, his master continues to tease him, while laughing at his sorry state. Ian taunts her for having all the fun while he's the one suffering. The point is actually about the nature of mages, who borrow power from the mysteries of nature by communicating with them. This is how magic functions in this world, which takes the boy by complete surprise. That voice up there, the mage baddie remarks that it's actually the voice of the wind, and that he needs to hear the voices of other mysteries too. Anne, now having a grip on how magic works, is happy to follow this approach. Pointing at him with total seriousness, she tasks him with his second mission, understanding water arts. As you can guess, Bro is sent to drown his ass and become the next Michael Phelps, or practically die in the sea. He can even communicate with the rippling water, and is barely holding it together. Next, his teacher tasks him with frost arts, so he's sent to take a cold plunge in the middle of fucking Antarctica where his balls are freezing. By this point, his teacher is quite hopeful, and pretty much impressed with Bro's learning speed. Meanwhile, our boy is questioning his existence and barely keeping up with everything. Without losing momentum, this psycho mage baddie snaps her fingers to cast the flames of hell right in front of Ian. Our boy knows that right after freezing his balls, this woman is about to burn them off too. He begs his master for mercy, but as usual, the sound of flames sparks intrigue in the young human. The first question the flames ask is if they can burn him with glee. And well, you can just imagine our boy's reaction, because Bro knows he's literally cooked. In the next scene, We enter the caverns where Ian is meant to gain an understanding of Earth arts, his final task so far. The voice of the Earth is actually quite soothing, rambling about some wisdom like Master Ogwe or something. Even our boy is confused, and doesn't get what the hell he just heard, which makes him wonder if he lacks the ability to comprehend Earth arts. Bro takes it as a sign of relief and exits the area, when suddenly the system pops another notification, revealing that he's earned bonus skill points. These points can increase his magic proficiency, and 100 of them are available right now. This pretty much confirms to Ian that he's a damn cheater in this world, because there's no way he's getting this stuff for free. Obviously, since Earth is his weakest element right now, he decides to upgrade it by tapping on the screen. As soon as he points at it, the screen pulses with a blinding blue light. At this point, the voice of the Earth commands him, explaining that lava sits just underneath, and that if he's not careful, an earthquake could occur and cause the lava to erupt to the surface. Ian now understands what the voice is trying to say. His goal is to just get the hell out of there, and confirm to his master that he heard the voice of the mystery. First, Ian commands fire to burn, creating light for him to navigate. This time, a different voice shrieks in pain, expressing its anger toward the light. Ian tries to strike up a chat with it, questioning if this is also the voice of the Earth. However, this element is different. It's not an element his master told him about. Because, you see, the only thing that truly hates light is the voice of darkness, and that is exactly what this mystery is. Ian is startled. While outside, his master is checking her schedule and realizing she might have to attend an upcoming pyromancer conference. Just then, her student comes rushing out. She congratulates Ian for finally succeeding, while he shares the exciting news of having made contact. While he shares more exciting news about making contact with the shadows of darkness, this revelation actually leaves the mage Betty's jaw on the floor. Clearly, she didn't anticipate him connecting with the dark. It makes her wonder if he truly made contact with such a cowardly mystery, and her silence starts making Ian worry. She addresses the boy, telling him they need to start their descent down the mountain. The boy is happy to comply, curious about where their next adventure will take them. But it seems Ian completely misunderstood her. You see, his master has something else entirely in mind. She declares that they will officially be parting ways right here. Pointing to her left, she suggests he head to the Chronoling, where he'll soon attend the Space-Time Sorcerer Conference. She explains that if he's destined to learn those arts, he'll also have the fortune of running into a competent Space-Time Sorcerer there, too. Bro is baffled because, all of a sudden, he's being told to learn a completely new skill set related to space-time. Watching his confusion brings a smile to her face. Eldith reflects that the young boy was born with a natural affinity for uncovering mysteries. Based on her gut feeling, she can tell he'll be capable of wielding the power of space-time, too. With that, their meeting wraps up. Eldith is excited to see him again after 3 years in Dranheim. In the next scene, we're reintroduced to the region she told him about. The town looks pretty rural, though the people are bustling about. Ian is searching for the conference his master mentioned. He still thinks that woman is unpredictable as hell for sending him here. A man in the crowd appears to be a travel guide, ready to help anyone headed north. Ian recalls his master saying the conference would be held in the north. And since he's free to travel, our boy thinks it's a perfect opportunity to head out right away. In the next scene, a group of people is settling down for camp. Ian is seated among them. One of the men, the one who called out to him earlier, is the merchant guild master, Leek. Leek asks if it's the boy's first time heading north, and Ian confirms it is, explaining he's only going because something urgent came up. The older man hears this and comments that the boy probably has no clue about Dragon Mountain. Ian is confused because, apparently, this place is supposed to be teeming with gorgeous yet dangerous black drakes. These drakes aren't exactly easy to fend off. Leek acts all buddy-buddy with the kid, asking if he at least knows how to fight or run. Ian isn't comfortable with the guy, but he admits he's not really confident in his skills. Immediately, the seemingly kind man turns on him, calling our boy useless and questioning his profession. Feeling pretty awkward, the boy shares that he's a mage. I don't know what happened to Lee, but he starts shaking in shock and calls the boy a Lord Mage. Overhearing the conversation, a girl is drawn to the boy. The cloaked girl turns around to see what's going on, while the other men are still confused, even shocked, that this kid is supposed to be a mage. Ian genuinely doesn't get why everyone is so stunned, but his little revelation has shifted the vibe completely. Acting as if he's revering his abilities, Lee quickly turns into a subordinate, grabbing a bowl and happily offering the boy seconds. Even though Ian declines, the man charges over to the food server to fetch him a new bowl anyway. More and more people begin chatting about Ian's status as a mage. Some even doubt his abilities, believing his appearance makes him look like a third-rate weakling who doesn't know what he's talking about. These haters are hating hard on our guy, thinking he's not all that. Ian is a nice kid, though, and doesn't pay them any mind. The girl who took an interest in him earlier decides to speak up. She whispers that if he's truly a mage, he should use a spell, and show these guys who's actually the boss. It seems like a pretty aggressive approach, and Ian doesn't really get the point. The girl explains that mercenaries are known for making fun of quiet people, treating them as timid or weak. That's why it's necessary for people like him to show their power and intimidate anyone doubting their strength. If Ian can do that, he'll show them who's the top dog, and the mercenaries will automatically fall in line, willing to protect him from any trouble. The idea is new to Ian, but he understands where she's coming from. Still, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. First of all, Bro doesn't exactly have much experience getting angry at people. While this conversation is happening, the dude serving the food actually spits in Ian's bowl before wiping it around with a leaf. This disrespect actually pisses our boy off. He can believe this guy had the audacity to spit in his food. Suddenly, the ground trembles, making the server realize he messed up big time. Ian approaches the guy with a powerful presence, demanding to know how he dared to spit on his plate like that. The server is practically wetting his pants in fear, quickly submitting and apologizing to the Lord Mage for his heinous actions. Pissing Ian off even more, the server claims he just wanted to polish the plate. Ian is furious that this guy's best idea for polishing a plate is to spit in it first. The man argues that water is actually dirty, so it would have been worse. Ian doesn't understand the logic behind such a statement at all. So, the server thoroughly explains how water is full of mud and parasites, which is why he doesn't wash plates with it. And my god, bro, it's the worst reasoning ever, because this man actually believes his spit is cleaner by comparison. The explanation traumatizes Ian, haunting him for the rest of the night. Bro is out here going crazy, completely turned to stone in front of the mercenaries and servers, realizing this medieval age has zero sense of hygiene. Frustrated, Ian coldly mutters a spell, causing a massive burst of flame to erupt from the nearby campfire. These flames tower over everyone, intimidating the crowd and surprising the girl who gave him the suggestion. Maintaining his assertive tone, Ian orders them to fetch some damn water, berating them for being a bunch of dirty medieval bastards. Both men run off at full speed to fetch the water, not even realizing what they did wrong to begin with. In the next scene, it's a calm night, and it appears everyone is asleep. Except for the mercenaries, who are searching for Kathy, the girl they can't find. One horny bastard wants Kathy all to himself because his medieval 1-inch stick is acting up at 3-0. In the distance, he manages to spot her. So the horned dog calls out to Kathy, urging her to come to him. Suddenly, the man notices that Kathy is actually knocked out. She's been abducted by a group of bandits. The mercenaries shout at the bandits, but their macho act fails when one of them is suddenly killed by an arrow to the chest. The mercenaries roar in anger at the aggressors for killing one of their comrades. They quickly bolt into action, aiming to fight these guys off and take them down. The leader of the unknown group treats them like a bunch of small insects. But that's when Kathy wakes up and starts biting the hell out of the dude's back. The guy is forced to throw her down because he couldn't risk his arm getting taken off by her secret biting technique. Kathy struggles to run away while the leader commands his men to chase after her. While she's running away, and all this chaos is unfolding, our boy is sleeping in his tent, still haunted by the memory of these medieval assholes using spit for cleaning. The commotion outside quickly wakes him from his nightmare. A mysterious voice calls out to him, telling him to get up fast. My guy senses the heavy aura in the air before hearing the sound of the mercenaries running toward him. My guy senses the shift in the atmosphere before he even hears the mercenaries coming. Leek is the first one to reach him, breathless, calling out to the Lord Mage and explaining that they were in deep trouble. In the next scene, our boy hits the war zone where the mercenaries are locked in a brutal scrap with a pack of bandits. Their leader is a beast, easily the strongest of the lot, carving through the mercenaries like it's nothing. He orders his men to slaughter everyone without mercy, and then find Kathy, the missing woman they were hunting. Their target is currently cowering behind a nearby tree. She shrinks back in horror, paralyzed by fear, knowing that at this rate, it's only a matter of seconds before they sniff her out. While she's trying to stay hidden, one of the thugs actually spots her, confirming her worst nightmare. With a blade pressed to her face, the guy threatens to hatch off her arm if she doesn't get on her feet right now. Terrified, Kathy sinks into despair, certain that her life is over. Before she can even stand, this merciless scumbag raises his sword to finish her off. But at that exact moment, something slams into him with such insane force that the ground literally ruptures beneath the impact. Kathy is left speechless. Her savior is standing right there. Ian timed his spell perfectly, and arrived just in the nick of time. She looks at him in awe as he grabs her hand, telling her to stay close. His sheer confidence is the only thing keeping her together. Meanwhile, the rest of the group huddles up in a single file line behind the Lord Mage like a human train. It looks goofy, but it's actually tactical. Ian chants open, giving off Major Sukuna's furnace vibes, but instead of flames, he condenses the power of darkness and lightning into a single, pulsing sphere. Both the mercenaries and the bandits stop dead when they see the spell. In an instant, the entire area is swallowed by total darkness. Unable to see a thing, they frantically light their torches, but even that small bit of light can't pierce the void. Everything is pitch black. These dudes start fumbling and bumping into each other like the power just went out in a basement. But while they were struggling, Ian's train formation keeps his group moving in sync. He leads the way with total confidence while the others follow his lead. Using this technique, he figures they can slip out without a hitch. The skill he's rocking is a shadow art, paired with his dark vision attribute, allowing him to see perfectly through the gloom. Unfortunately, bad luck strikes when one of the assailants accidentally bumps right into Leek, blowing their cover. Things go south fast, as the guy raises his sword, desperate to cut them down with the little bit of visibility he has. At the front of the line, Leek is terrified, begging for his life like the helpless old man he is. Ian has to swoop in and drop a fire burn incantation. Remember when he used it just to light a torch earlier? This time, Bro literally uses the flame to engulf the dude's face, roasting him alive. After getting turned into a human state, the guy hits the dirt, scaring the absolute crap out of the other bandits. The man they re-up against is no joke, and Ian knows this display of power should be enough to send the rest of them running for their lives. Just as he expected, panic sets in. The bandits are ready to bolt, but their leader refuses to let them retreat. He roars for them to charge, but despite the leader's bravado, the outcome is never going to change. Out of nowhere, a black drake arrives and surprises everyone by chomping the leader's head clean off. Talk about a gruesome exit. That death instills pure, primal terror in the remaining party members, but it doesn't stop there. Even our boy is swaying now. The situation just got a lot more complicated with the arrival of this flesh-eating behemoth. The beast stares curiously at the remaining humans, while snacking on one of their comrades, like a predator that just stumbled upon an all-you-can-eat buffet. The surviving bandits scatter in fear, but the panic is just as real for Ian's group. Leek stutters, pointing a trembling finger toward the drake. Despite his confidence as a mage, Ian doesn't have the experience to deal with something as high-tier as this drake. Ian knows they were staring down total destruction. Meanwhile, the system chimes in, noting that they've encountered one of the primordial mysteries. This automatically unlocks a new skill for him summoning. This allows Ian to communicate with and summon other life forms. It's a pretty convenient power-up considering his current odds against this monster. But it also makes our boy wonder if this beast is really any different from the other mysteries he's already faced. They were all based on different elements, but if he can just manage to communicate with this thing, they might actually survive. Despite his hesitation, Ian takes the gamble and calls out to the drake, who glares back with blood still dripping from its maw. Leek and the others are convinced they were about to be sent to the Shadow Realm, even with Ian there. The mage patiently stares down the beast, which growls back, trying its best to intimidate the human. Mustering some confidence, Ian continues to reach out, knowing that so far, none of the mysteries have betrayed his efforts. The mage introduces himself in the corniest way possible, claiming he's a friend of the drake. Yep, looks like he learned talk no jutsu from Naruto during a secret 7-year task. Anyway, the drake is baffled, and so is Ian's party. Ian is basically trying to explain that friends aren't supposed to kill each other. But I think Bro is forgetting the fact that this thing literally just bit a dude's head off 5 seconds ago. The creature growls back, leaving the others wondering what it's actually saying to the mage. Ian looks confident on the outside, but the hilarious part is that even he doesn't have a clue what the thing is saying. He's just as lost as the rest of them. Right now, he has zero chance of actual communication. So, he spends his remaining points buffing his skills, dumping everything into his summoning stats just to get a shot at understanding it. After boosting the stat, our boy can finally understand the drake's language. Ian tries to confirm it by calling out to the beast once more. But his attempt just hisses the beast off, causing it to roar right in his face for wasting its time. Ian's party is absolutely shitting bricks, but he keeps his cool and prepares his next move. First, he explains that he has no intention of fighting. The drake scoffs, responding that it would be foolish to even dream of challenging him. Ian assures him he knows that, admitting they'd lose instantly if they even tried to attack. He plays right into the drake's arrogance, making it seem like fighting such a great beast would just be a total waste of time for both parties. The prideful drake assumes the humans are just begging for mercy. Leek and the others are just glad some form of communication is happening, while Kathy waits anxiously. The drake roars that it would indeed be pointless to slaughter such weaklings, which is exactly the opening our boy wanted. Ian starts to think the negotiation is going his way, but there's one small problem. The beast roars that he's in a pretty shitty mood right now, implying he still has no plans of letting them walk. Ian's party is on their knees begging for their lives, while our boy tries to figure out his next move. Ian takes it as a sign that the drake wants them to beat it, but he realizes he might not have a choice but to settle this with a more direct approach. But he doesn't mean fighting. The mage suddenly switches to their epist mode and asks the drake why he's in such a sour mood. Still pissed, the beast shouts that he has zero motivation to explain himself to a human. Ian responds by offering some assistance to help lighten the drake's mood. The offer sounds arrogant to the creature, who thinks it's pointless for a human to try and help. In response, the mage mutters a series of The mage mutters a string of words in the ancient magical tongue, causing the water to soar upward and sprinkle across the area. The sight appears strange to the party, and even stranger to the beast. While Ian surrounds himself with a mystical aura, the beast, intrigued by the sudden display of magic, takes a full interest in the boy. Ian emphasizes that he's nothing more than a humble mage trying to communicate with the mysteries of the world. That's why he just wants to help the Drake however he can, seeing as the beast hasn't lashed out in anger just yet. Ian knows he's in the zone. The next step is where the real negotiation actually begins. We cut to the next scene, as midnight falls upon them. The Drake's bloodlust has vanished, and he's much more open to a talk. Our boy is just happy he managed to delay an immediate death for himself and his friends. But the real issue comes down to fulfilling the requirements. Ian weighs his option, understanding that the Drake holds all the leverage here, which means the mage has to be the one to make simple demands. A sudden memory of his master flashes through his mind. She once told him that mastering magic is straight up impossible without mastering communication. It's the same reason why building a relationship with the mysteries is essential. Friends or not, every mystery contains its own nature and temperament. The job of a mage is to identify and empathize with those natures, moving in sync with the hearts of the mysteries. In other words, Ian learned that social navigation is a critical skill for a mage. In a life-threatening situation like this, he has the perfect opportunity to prove himself as someone who can swindle a Drake out of a murderous mood. To achieve this, he pulls up the skill window. First, the system shows him a skill called Expert Summoning Management, which is basically everything our boy needs for the current trouble. Normally, this would seem like the quickest choice, but our boy takes his time and finds it really strange that the skill involves feeding the Drake high-quality liquor. Ian is sweating bullets the more he reads these damn system notes, because the next step requires glazing the absolute shit out of the mysteries he's talking to. Long story short, the most helpful advice bro got from the system is to just use alcohol and become one of those simps who glaze thoughts on Twitter. Ian submits in defeat, realizing this kind of task is impossible for a loner like him, while even the Drake is left questioning what the hell this dude is trying to do. Strengthening his resolve, our boy decides he should start by reaching the creature's heart, as it's the only way to make any progress. Ian addresses the Drake, claiming he's prepared a mighty gift for the glorious beast. Curious about the offering, the beast demands he bring it forth at once. Axe, Ian calls for Leek, who is startled by the sudden command. Bro quickly tells this old fart to fetch the strongest liquor they have right this second. Moments later, the man returns with an exquisite, premium-looking box of liquor, presenting it to the Drake. The monster doesn't exactly get the purpose of the gift. Even Ian is internalizing his anger, pissed off that this monster is so ungrateful, but on the outside, guy plays it cool. He explains that it's a precious gift from the human world. Pouring the beast a massive cup, he presents it to the monster. The Drake smells it first, finding the scent peculiar. Suddenly, the beast erupts with anger, questioning if this man is about to pull some fishy 3000 Ike move to betray him. Ian's party is terrified, but my man keeps his poker face and assures the Drake that no fishy business is going on. To prove his words, guy chugs the whole mug without a problem. Even his party is shocked that he actually went through with it. Ian shakes it off like it's nothing, but deep down, he's stunned by how strong the stuff is. The Drake is a bit annoyed that the liquor smells so bad, so he plugs his nose to avoid it. The mage assures him it'll make him feel better if he just gives it a try. The monster stares it down. A tiny little mug surely couldn't do anything to him. With a bit of boldness, he lets his tongue out for a small taste while Ian's party prays for their lives. Suddenly, the Drake turns into a squirming little girl. He clearly didn't expect this outcome. Even though the taste isn't exactly pleasant for a wild beast, the substance is addicting. Finding the perfect lead, Ian suggests the beast try another one too. As the night goes by, this thing gets literally drunk as hell. Swallowing massive amounts of liquor, the Drake is in a giddy mood, and has found a new addiction. But our boy is questioning how the hell this bastard is still alive after draining 7 whole barrels. Ian and the Drake have become total besties, both discovering just how heavy of a drinker this beast is. Earlier, our boy had planned to escape while the big bad lizard was asleep, but that's not happening anytime soon. Instead, Ian is chugging the same liquor himself when suddenly, the Drake brings up the mage's earlier request to find out why he was in such a bad mood. The drunken Drake starts weeping and gets all teary-eyed like a sentimental schoolgirl, confusing our boy. Apparently, the Drake is annoyed that his nest is in a garbage location compared to the others. Despite that, his partner told him she felt at peace there. Bro is literally weeping over his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Ian is reflecting on how in the flying fudge this ugly-looking Drake managed to secure a lady when he doesn't even have one. The creature wallows in pain, explaining how his partner eventually started getting teased by the others, which made him feel guilty on her behalf. In his anger, Bro actually broke up with his own girlfriend. It's hilarious, because Tough Guy's roar wakes up Leek and the others, then promptly puts them back to bed by reaping their souls. Well, Ian can understand the feeling the Drake is mourning the loss of a lover just like a human. At the same time, a plan comes to mind to change things for the better. He calls out to the beast, explaining that he could use magic to fix that wretched nest. The monster is shaken by the support. Ian chimes in and asks for something in return, one simple favor by the next morning. Ian walks around, while Leek is still daydreaming some shitty romantic dream. Our boy taps this timid clown's head and gets triggered that the old fart isn't waking up. Ian threatens to snap his finger if he doesn't wake up immediately. Bro looks at him with the most JoJo-esque Giga Chad expression ever. His glare terrifies Lee, causing him to scream and wake up, while the rest of the group topples over because of him. All this time, Ian has been dragging their asses together on a cart, because they all fainted the moment that dragon let out a roar. Tiffy thinks she made a mistake tagging along with these guys, while the others ask if the drake has already gone back to its nest. They hug each other for comfort, terrified the monster will come out any second and slaughter them. Ian assures them that the dragon is at its nest waiting for him. He's already made a deal with the creature to save his friends' lives. Just hearing that makes these clowns suddenly turn into his #1 fans, while Ian is left wondering if he should have just left them to die. Back then, he told the monster he'd fix its nest in exchange for their lives. Hearing those words, Leek and the others chant the name of the brilliant archmage, honoring him. Our boy doesn't get where this is coming from, because apparently, these guys are under the impression that the mage actually beat up the big bad dragon for them, and after scolding the creature, he sent it back to its nest before forcing the creature to surrender to his mercy. These losers are ecstatic, a wave of emotion washing over them. They want to serve this man for the rest of their lives. Ian is just annoyed and orders them to be ready to depart without ditching him by the time he's back. They agree to this command, swearing that they're united as one. Soon after, Ian asks them to check on the number of mercenaries they have on hand. Kathy notices this and, for some reason, is being particularly observant of her surroundings. Let's cut to the part where the dragon takes our boy to his nest. It's a rocky little setting, and Ian expresses his shock, causing the dragon to jump down his throat for acting like the situation is unsolvable. Our boy clarifies that it's not unfixable at all, it's just that he's sleepy, and his stamina is at an all-time low. Ian just wants to get things done quickly so he doesn't get bogged down later. His objective is simple: push back the protruding rocks and create more space. Focusing himself, he communicates with the calm earth, which actually talks back to him. Ian asks for a favor, but the earth immediately declines, stating that it's busy. Bro realizes that this thing is not happy with him at all. While the anxious dragon demands immediate updates, the mage explains that the earth isn't even listening to him, so he's going to try again once its mood improves. He understands that the earth is only going to be angrier if he makes a second request. The dragon argues that if that's how things are, then it just can't be helped. Instead of getting angry with the mage, the dragon actually thanks Ian for even giving it a shot for someone as miserable as him. Even our boy gets in his feelings while the dragon asks for his name. Ian introduces himself, and the beast introduces itself as Longtail. He wants the two of them to be friends, so our boy holds its paw, creating a new bond and confirming the summoning requirements for this beast. The system assures him that he can use the monster anytime he wants. But even then, he feels shitty for being unable to do anything for his friend. The beast calls out to him, suggesting they should at least celebrate their friendship, and offers him as much gold as he wants to take. It's freaking insane that this thing has so many jewels on him, and he's happy to give them all away to one human. Ian inspects one of the jewels, wincing at the thought that if only the earth were willing to give him a chance, things would have been different. But after inspecting one particular jewel, our boy experiences a sudden shock. He turns to Longtail and asks if it's okay for him to scribble on the floor. The beast is confused but allows him the opportunity. Moments later, Ian carves out a gorgeous magic circle with a jewel at its heart. This is the same method his master taught him, a technique used to convince a mystery by using magic circles. Longtail has no idea what this mage is trying to do, but our boy assures him that this is going to be good. This time, he calls out to the earth once more, urging her to move the rocks and smooth the walls for him. Interestingly, the jewel on the circle reacts with a blinding light, and indeed, the walls start to move in accordance with the mage's desire. Longtail is blinded by the light, but by the time he gazes back at his nest, it has been gorgeously crafted into a divine masterpiece. Ian explains that it's his return gift as a friend, and the little dragon is ready to burst into tears. The lair looks metal as hell, and even smells amazing. Longtail questions if this, too, is the beauty of magic, and holds the human's hand. This time, the dragon won't feel any shame presenting his new lair to his girlfriend, and even the children they'll eventually have will feel safe. Ian didn't ask for the to me, but he's happy to help. Except, a backlash from his technique fires back on him. His body shivers and he experiences a sudden headache. Before he can comprehend what's going on, the mage faints in front of the dragon after his nose starts bleeding. In other words, my guy fried his own brain for this technique. and he doesn't even have a reversed curse technique to heal his brain like Gojo Sator. Panicking, the dragon comforts his buddy, who is still gasping for breath. The beast has no idea what to do when suddenly Kathy roars for her friend, and comes rushing toward him. The dragon is a little confused, while she's frightened for her life, thinking he's about to eat her. She stops dead in her tracks, while the dragon looks at her with a death glare, thinking she might be some kind of enemy. Kathy trembles, but softens up, expressing that she's just here to talk. And she begins making the same stupid signs our boy made earlier to show that she's a friend. With much difficulty, the beast finally understands what she means. They both look toward Ian, who is still in pretty rough shape and barely hanging on. By nightfall, our boy is brought out under the night sky. When he wakes back up, he instinctively reaches for his phone as if he were still on Earth. Hilariously, instead of grabbing his phone, the dude ends up holding this chick's hand, questioning how the heck his phone got so soft, or turned into a gummy. The squishy, soft sensation genuinely doesn't make any sense until Kathy directly asks if he's awake, because bro is doing some real Lisa shit right now. Yin, now flustered, embarrassingly jumps out of her lap, confused as to what the hell she's doing there. At first, my guy thinks he's dreaming, but she explains that she was looking after him after he collapsed. The ringing headache still bothers him, while she advises him to try and rest. You see, Ian is only just piecing together the fact that he straight up collapsed throughout the night. He forced certain evolutions without letting himself adapt. Kathy looks at him, confused, while he's out here questioning if she managed to overhear everything. Bro's genuinely embarrassed and covers his face, looking like a total mess. He asks about Longtail, but apparently, that overgrown lizard left, making our boy wonder if he's out chasing his girl. He apologizes to Kathy for causing her trouble and asks how she even managed to get here with Longtail guarding the place. She explains that she somehow found a way to communicate that they were friends. Bro finds it difficult to believe, and wonders if she used mage language. He's pretty sleepy and doesn't have all the answers, while Kathy shares that she willingly followed him even though she knew the risks. It's actually because she has a request for the mage. First off, Kathy feels guilty over the attack that happened last night because she's the one responsible for it. Ian seems surprised, and she apologizes straight away for putting them in so much trouble. Our boy understands that things got shaky and heavy way too fast, making him realize why she was trembling so hard. Ian theorizes that she must have some kind of beef with the bandits. While she's offended at the suggestion, Bro is even willing to state that her face looks like a bandit's. Kathy decides to get vulnerable and reveal a huge secret. Ian expects this to be a corny plot twist, like her being the princess of some country. In reality, she drops a bombshell. Her real name is Lucy of the Tarian family. She's a noble, and the bandits were sent on behalf of her fiance. Ian then suspects it might be some kind of bratty lover's quarrel, like always. Kathy is upset with his trashy assumptions, sharing that she intended to disappear far away from her fiance's control. However, she lost the confidence to escape after everything that happened yesterday. Grasping his hand, she begs him to help her escape. Ian is a little overwhelmed by her sudden mess, questioning what she's even running away from, or if it's really that bad. The girl emphasizes that her family, the Tarians, are a baronial house that governs the Finlep region. However, because they had a shortage of knights to defend them, they were constantly at risk of being attacked. Because of that, a territorial war was always looming over them, threatening the very destruction of their family. In haste, she was married off to a knight who was once a mercenary captain as a means to control the situation. Because this man had insane influence in his mercenary team back when he was active, all the threats facing their family vanished. Things seemed fine at first. The guy seemed okay with his position as the son-in-law of the Tarian family. But then, things collapsed quickly. He went mad in his thirst for power, thinking that he could do anything. This guy had even started picking up random women, treating her with utter disregard and hatred. Things had gotten to a really terrible point, causing her parents to demand a breakup of the engagement. However, things did not work out well for them either. With a heavy heart, she reveals how this bastard poisoned her parents. Ian is shaken by this revelation, while the helpless girl shares how this scumbag thought he'd lose his power, so he made his point by poisoning her family. Even our boy thinks this dude is a generational shithead for doing all of that, while Lucy reasons that the guy will forever remain a commoner, which is why he's forcibly trying to inherit the family's name and rank. She only managed to escape thanks to the help of a servant, refusing to marry that man, but she knows that he'll keep coming after her. Her one true desire, as a helpless girl with no one to turn to, is for Ian to help her reach safety and escape him. The mage understands her situation all too well. Our boy can feel the kind of violent figure this man truly is for going to such lengths so much, so that he's willing to kidnap his own fiancée. It's a complicated affair, and though he has no idea how these medieval processes affect his work, he can empathize with her. Lucy begs him, pleading with him on behalf of her family, hoping to reward him with anything. Still, one question bothers our boy: why him? Because he could always betray her, too. Lucy fires back that she's got nowhere else to turn, because nothing is worse than that man. She's even willing to offer him everything in return for her freedom. In fact, this woman is so desperate she's ready to help him take the rank of a noble by becoming a part of the Tarian family. Even though later, there comes an offer from a little princess saying that she would marry a commoner and a farmer's boy like him. And this is truly an incredible chance for a farmer's son to become connected with the nobility in a world like this. Ian still cannot decide what he truly wants for himself. If that happens, he would become part of the nobility, but he would no longer remain the disciple of Aladith, and would not live the life of a mage the way he always wanted to. Maybe that kind of life would still be fine for him, and on the other hand, it could also be a good way for him to live as a nobleman while dealing with politics and power. Right now, he stands at a crossroads regarding his destiny, and the kind of person he truly wants to become. Whether he should live as a nobleman, or continue as a mage, still, he was born into a fantasy world for a reason. So, he believes he should use this opportunity to push his magic to its absolute limits. By helping Lucy, he should be able to gain experience as a mage while also earning enough money to support himself with stable expenses. Because of that, he decides that from now on, he will drive away all the kidnappers, and simply allow everything else to follow its natural course. He clears his throat, and tells Kathy that she should probably ask someone who can use a sword far better than him, because a mage is not exactly a warrior, and he cannot do much for her during moments of danger. Even so, he still agrees to help her as long as she is willing to pay him. And after that, everything that happens will depend on him. Kathy immediately bursts into tears of joy, and becomes deeply grateful for his help. She throws her arms around Ian, and Ian feels a wave of sympathy for her as he quietly allows her to cry her heart out against him. Meanwhile, Drake is lazily sunbathing when Ian and Kathy finally step out of his cave. Drake instantly becomes excited when he sees his friend again, and he happily tells Ian that he looks good. Ian responds by saying that they are heading down the mountain because everyone is waiting for them below. Hearing this, Drake says that both of them should climb onto his back because he will take them there himself. Ian jumps onto him without even hesitating, but Kathy remains nervous and uncertain for a moment. Drake then calls her Ian's girlfriend and tells her to climb on as well, but Kathy completely misunderstands his words, and immediately begins trembling in embarrassment. While Ian quickly explains that things are not like that and that the two of them are not together, Drake still does not seem convinced because, they honestly look like a cute couple. Kathy remains confused by the entire situation, but Ian tries to calm her confusion and asks her to climb on behind him. Seeing Ian in that moment, looking like nothing less than a true hero, she finally decides to trust him. She climbs onto Drake and wraps her arms tightly around Ian. At the same time, the merchants are arguing among themselves while speaking to Leek. Some of them insist that they should pack their belongings and leave immediately, because they believe the dragon must have already killed Ian by now, and staying any longer would only put them in danger. However, the merchants are divided, and both sides keep arguing over completely different choices. One side wants to stay and wait for the powerful mage, while the other side desperately wants to leave and head somewhere safe. Leek thinks silently for a while before finally opening his eyes and declaring that he gave Ian his word that he would wait for him. And because of that promise, he is going to stay no matter what happens. A merchant who supports his decision immediately shouts with joy after hearing that they are staying. However, only 10 minutes later, a group of bandits suddenly attacks them. The bandits capture everyone and aggressively demand to know where the girl traveling with them is located. Leek becomes confused and asks what girl they are talking about, but one of the bandits explains that they mean a beautiful young woman with dark blue hair and warns Leek that pretending to know nothing will not save him from the situation. Leek suddenly realizes that they are talking about Kathy, but when everyone turns around, they discover that she has not been near them for quite some time. The bandits immediately assume that all of them are lying and begin threatening to kill everyone, while the terrified merchants scream in fear. Then, suddenly, Leek realizes that their protector and savior, Ian, has returned. Everyone quickly turns around and sees Drake charging toward them at incredible speed, while Ian and Kathy ride on top of him. One of the bandits nervously asks if the woman riding there is the girl they are supposed to capture, but panic already begins spreading among them, because the creature is rushing toward them at a terrifying speed. The moment they finally realize that it is not a dragon, but a Drake, they immediately abandon everything and run for their lives. Once the bandits are finally gone, Leek is deeply grateful that Kathy is safe, although he is also furious, because if it had not been for Ian, she would have ended up in terrible danger with all the bandits and the people hunting her down. One of the merchants asks how those men even managed to discover Kathy's whereabouts in the first place, but that mystery has to wait for another time because none of them understand how the pursuers began tracking her the moment they arrive. None of them can understand how people who follow the same heavenly God church can be so cruel either. Hearing the church's name makes Ian pause because he has not heard it in ages, and he knows it is one of the great religions of the world. Its doctrine strictly forbids enslaving fellow believers. Even so, Human traffickers and criminals have ignored those commandments for years and continued selling and exploiting people anyway. For years, they have continued selling and exploiting people without a second thought. More importantly, even after witnessing a mage's power and seeing Drake with their own eyes, those bandits still refuse to abandon their pursuit of Lucy. Ian realizes he is dealing with desperate, stubborn people who are willing to risk everything for a payday, and that thought unsettles him. At this rate, they will eventually track Lucy down for sure. That possibility terrifies him, because he knows he cannot handle a large group of enemies all at once. Because of that, he asks Drake for a favor, and Drake instantly agrees without hesitation. Ian asks him to drive away the men from earlier, and if necessary, even kill them. Drake's eyes sparkle with mischief the moment he hears that, as he is eager to do anything for his new friend. Without wasting another second, he rushes off to deal with the pursuers. Ian understands that killing people is terrible, yet this is a medieval fantasy world where killing and being killed are just parts of everyday life. If he wants to survive in this world, he has to adapt to it as well. Suddenly, his head begins spinning again because he has once more overused the Maronius language. Kathy immediately rushes to his side and grabs him before he can collapse onto the ground, begging him not to push himself so hard. Leek notices the scene instantly, and his eyes practically sparkle with mischief as he starts teasing them, asking whether they are dating. Both Ian and Kathy react with complete horror at the idea, which only makes Leek grin even wider. Soon after that, they continue their journey once again. During the trip, Ian repeatedly receives notifications informing him that Drake has eliminated another human. By the end, he receives 11 separate notifications in total. He admits to himself that it is surprisingly convenient for the magic to automatically report back to him, although it frustrates him that he cannot openly summon Drake in front of everyone else. Suddenly, Drake contacts him through telepathy, and announces proudly that he has driven away every suspicious person he could find. Ian thanks him sincerely for protecting them. Drake simply replies that he only did what would make his friend happy. Then, Drake asks whether Ian is truly leaving, because he hates saying goodbye, though he admits that this is farewell for now. Ian understands that Drake cannot leave the mountain range, and that realization saddens him, because it means they may not see each other again for a long time. Drake thanks him once more for everything he has done, but before ending their conversation, he suddenly brings up the mystery of the Phoenix. Naturally, Ian becomes interested immediately. Eventually, they arrive at Riverville, and Ian keeps thinking about Drake's words regarding the Phoenix. Rumors claim that an ice phoenix lives somewhere within the northern mountains. Ian feels an intense urge to see it for himself. According to legend, a phoenix is a creature that never truly disappears after death and possesses the ability to change through every attribute including fire, ice, wind, and even stone. It is known as a monster with extraordinary adaptability to any environment, and Ian quietly wonders if it might somehow be possible to create one. As they reach the gates, Leek and the merchants announce that they intend to meet the lord of the village and ask Ian and Kathy whether they would like to accompany them. Ian immediately decides against it if Lucy wants to escape safely. Then staying away from powerful nobles and high-ranking officials is probably the smartest option. Because of that, he says the two of them plan to rest at an inn before continuing their travels. Instantly, the merchants begin teasing Ian and Kathy again, and this time Kathy happily plays along by claiming that she is exhausted as well. She even clings to Ian in such a convincing way that Leek immediately starts shipping them once more, nearly blushing from excitement. After separating from the merchants, Kathy admits that pretending to be with Ian has made things much easier because it keeps annoying people from bothering her. Although Ian is far less enthusiastic about the arrangement, he then asks why she behaves so politely toward commoners, when he himself is nothing more than a farmer's son. Kathy replies honestly that she admires him now and sees no reason to treat him poorly. Ian thinks about her words for a moment, and realizes that he also wants to remain approachable and kind no matter what happens, while Kathy silently admires how naturally polite Ian is, and wishes she could become more like him. Ian then asks what her plans are moving forward, and Kathy explains that she intends to seek out Count Kitna. Apparently, the Count is her uncle on her mother's side, and she believes that if she explains everything, he will definitely help her. Ian immediately asks whether they were even close, and Kathy admits that they were not exactly distant from each other. Even so, Ian cannot help feeling suspicious, and points out that she should not blindly trust an uncle who is not even especially close to his own sister. Kathy becomes offended immediately, and demands to know how Ian could possibly suspect her uncle, insisting that there is nothing in the world he would not do for her. Ian eventually relents, and decides that if she trusts him that much, then perhaps she is right after all. The moment he agrees, Kathy suddenly shifts into a teasing mood again, and jokes that if a mage as impressive as Ian proposed to her, she would gladly marry him and accompany him to the Count as his wife. Ian immediately shuts the idea down and reminds her that their agreement ends the moment they safely reach the Count. Kathy pouts, and calls him cruel for rejecting a noblewoman willing to marry him. Ian casually replies that there are plenty of women in the world besides her. Kathy instantly grows irritated by that answer and storms ahead toward the inn in frustration. When they finally arrive at the inn, Ian hands over a bag of gold to the receptionist, and pays for a room and a bath for the night. The amount is more than enough for both of them. The receptionist then casually asks whether the girl will also be taking a bath, but the moment Kathy hears that question, she becomes horrified and hurriedly insists that she is perfectly fine without one. Ian initially assumes she simply dislikes bathing, and thinks she is already filthy enough to need one badly, but after a moment, he realizes the truth. Public baths in this medieval world are completely exposed, and Kathy is obviously uncomfortable with the idea of bathing publicly in front of strangers. Understanding her hesitation, Ian simply tells the receptionist that he alone will use the bath. Kathy immediately lets out a relieved sigh. Unfortunately, while this conversation takes place, 3 suspicious people sitting nearby quietly observe Kathy the entire time. Ian notices their stares at once, and instantly becomes protective. He quickly tells Kathy to pull her robe tighter, because people are watching her too closely, and he does the same himself to avoid attracting further attention. However, by that point it is already too late, because those strangers have clearly fixed their eyes on Kathy and have no intention of forgetting her face. On the other hand, the men watching Kathy are entertaining disgusting thoughts about her. It is the first time they have ever seen someone as beautiful as her to them. She looks almost like an angel descended from heaven itself. What irritates them even more is the fact that she is traveling beside a skinny, black-haired boy like Ian, and in their minds, someone like him does not deserve to be near a woman like her. They exchange mischievous glances with one another, and quickly come to the conclusion that since Ian and Kathy are clearly not planning to stay at the inn for very long, they need to act immediately if they want a chance to take her for themselves. Their intentions are vile from the very beginning, and they decide that today is their lucky day. They decide that today is their prime opportunity to make a move. While they continue plotting amongst themselves, elsewhere inside the castle, the Lord of Riverdale is speaking with Leek. During their conversation, Leek suddenly realizes that this is the perfect chance to earn the Lord's favor, and perhaps secure a safe stay within the castle walls. Because of that, he begins flattering the Lord relentlessly, piling on the praise until the man grows visibly pleased, his arrogance swelling from the onslaught of compliments. Once he feels the timing is right, Leek finally reveals that they encountered a mage during their travels. He excitedly recounts everything from how the mage managed to tame a dragon to how he saved every single one of them from a gruesome fate. Leek even lets slip that the mage is currently staying at an inn right there in town. The moment the Lord hears this, his expression shifts completely. Instead of excitement, he is struck by immediate dread. He thinks about how disastrous it would be if such an unpredictable mage suddenly lost his temper and unleashed a dragon upon his territory. Not only would his people suffer, but the situation is already volatile enough, because another troublesome force is currently stationed within Riverdale. That force is the Holy Santiago Knights, a fanatical order devoted entirely to serving God. They fight as both monks and warriors, roaming the land in search of demons and monsters rather than participating in ordinary wars. They proudly call themselves the protectors of humanity, yet the Lord privately considers them righteous zealots who bring chaos wherever they go. The mere thought of those Santiago Knights crossing paths with a dragon-taming mage terrifies him. He is certain that if a conflict erupts between them, this peaceful little town will be destroyed in the process. Determined to prevent that disaster at all costs, he immediately orders his commanders to prepare a room for Leek and then commands them to summon the Santiago Knights at once, hoping to keep both sides separated before anything catastrophic happens. Meanwhile, Ian and Kathy are sitting together eating breakfast at the inn. After finishing his meal, Ian announces that he plans to take a bath, and casually tells Kathy to head up to the second floor once she is done eating. The moment she is left alone, one of the suspicious men sees his chance, and quietly follows her. As she walks through the inn by herself, he suddenly approaches her and claims that the black-haired boy sent him to escort her to the docks immediately because of an urgent matter waiting there. He explains that Ian is currently in the bath and asked him to bring her over as quickly as possible. Kathy, naturally kind, and already anxious from the danger surrounding her, believes him instantly. Her thoughts immediately jump to the possibility that the bandits have returned to kidnap her again, so she hurriedly follows the stranger without questioning him further. However, when she catches a glimpse of Ian peacefully bathing, she instantly realizes that something is terribly wrong. Unfortunately, by the time that realization hits her, it is already too late. Someone suddenly throws a cloak over her face. Ian notices the movement immediately. Just as one of the men attempts to attack him, the man suddenly loses his footing and crashes down, tripped by Ian's magic. In that instant, Ian realizes that this situation does not resemble the schemes of Lucy's fiance at all. This is something entirely different. Worst of all, Kathy is being kidnapped right in front of him. Without hesitation, Ian uses his light magic to create an illusion around himself. He possesses many strange abilities and mysteries he can draw upon, and for now, light is the easiest one to use. Yet, at that very moment, Something unexpected happens. Shadows begin creeping toward him as if they were alive, almost inviting him to play alongside them. When Ian opens his eyes again, he realizes that darkness itself has instantly become his new ally. He gathers the shadows around him and unleashes them upon the kidnappers. Darkness pours from his eyes as the shadows engulf the men completely. However, before he can continue, he notices reinforcements arriving nearby. He cannot believe that common criminals would possess such organized backup. As he violently demands to know where they took Kathy, the terrified man admits that he genuinely does not know. Suddenly, Ian feels the cold edge of a sword pressed against his back. A stern voice orders him to stand aside, while another man questions him about the darkness from earlier and asks whether Ian was the one controlling it. At that moment, Ian realizes exactly who has arrived, because standing behind him are the warriors of the Holy Santiago Knights. Ian confirms without hesitation that he is indeed the mage who summoned the darkness. However, while speaking, he cannot stop thinking about the terrifying old man standing before him, as the sheer bloodlust radiating from the knight is overwhelming. The criminal immediately begins begging the knights to save him, shamelessly lying that the mage tried to kill him for no reason at all. Ian stares at him in disbelief, unable to comprehend how casually the man twists the truth. The old knight narrows his eyes and remarks that if Ian truly is a mage, then such murderous intent is entirely believable. Hearing that instantly irritates Ian, but the old man continues, claiming that mages are all the same, possessing dangerous bloodlust and believing they can do whatever they please without consequences. Ian takes deep offense to those words, and anger begins rising inside him. However, before he can respond properly, the old man speaks with such authority that Ian realizes something important about this world here. Having a foul mouth and an overwhelming presence is often treated as proof of strength and skill. Even so, another knight suddenly steps forward and declares that regardless of Ian's abilities, it does not excuse him for using wicked magic. Ian pauses at those words while the knight explains that surrounding himself with darkness is an act of turning away from the heavens and rejecting the light of the sun. According to him, hiding within the darkness is nothing more than the behavior of a coward. Ian thinks carefully for a moment before clearing his throat and calmly arguing back that the laws of heaven allow both day and night to coexist. He then asks them if heaven truly belongs only to the light, then why does night exist at all? The moment those words leave his mouth, the knights fall into complete existential confusion. Their expressions shift dramatically as they try to process his argument, and soon many of them become strangely fascinated by him. They realize this young mage possesses a level of intelligence far beyond what they expected. Taking advantage of the silence, Ian politely asks them to excuse him, because his sister has just been kidnapped and he desperately needs to rescue her. Instantly, the knights realize the criminal had deceived them from the start, and every one of them turns toward the lying man with fury in their eyes. The old knight then orders a man named Dietrich to keep watch over the criminal before marching toward the inn himself. As an apology for wasting Ian's valuable time, he declares that he will personally help rescue Ian's sister and ensure her safety. Soon afterward, they arrive at the docks where the remaining kidnappers are attempting to smuggle Kathy away on a boat. She is tightly bound inside a body bag while the men hurry to escape before anyone catches them. The knights instantly recognize what is happening and become furious because the criminals are already preparing to flee. Meanwhile, Ian notices something crucial about the timing the sun is beginning to set. Because of this, he realizes he can now use his magic far more effectively. The old knight asks the group how they should proceed, insisting that for the sake of rescuing the innocent girl, they must work together. The knights get hyped at the prospect of battle, but Ian quickly warns them that charging directly onto the boat could be a death trap. The old man refuses to back down, insisting he's willing to do whatever it takes to save her. Ian then points out a large hook nearby, explaining his plan to pull the boat back toward the shore. The old knight just stares at him, totally confused, asking if he intends to use shadow magic for that. He can wrap his head around how that would even work. Ian casually explains that he possesses introductory knowledge from various schools of magic, allowing him to use multiple forms instead of specializing in just one. This leaves the old knight even more baffled. Throughout his life, he's only seen people dedicate themselves entirely to mastering a single element rather than juggling several at once. Without wasting any more time, Ian begins chanting in his infamous Moronius language, calling upon the river itself to create obstacles and force the boat back toward the shore. Almost immediately, the river responds. Powerful currents begin twisting violently, dragging the boat backward, while waves crash around it, throwing the vessel into absolute chaos. Thanks to that sudden shift, Ian finally manages to rescue Kathy. The moment she's freed, she clings to him tightly in total relief. Ian immediately realizes that if she keeps acting this affectionate, the old knight will figure out they aren't siblings in no time. Because of that, he awkwardly hugs her back while secretly dwelling on how exhausted he is. His energy is dangerously low, and all he wants is to get back to the inn for a peaceful bath. Unfortunately, Ian has no idea yet that in this world, Something as simple as enjoying a quiet bath is nearly impossible for someone like him. Meanwhile, back at the castle, an emergency letter arrives. As it turns out, Bernard, the eldest son of Riverdale along with Hansen, the Knight of Riverdale, are already rushing toward Ian's location. Both Bernard and Hansen noticed the thick smoke rising in the distance, and immediately assumed it was coming from a battle. They started worrying that the Lord's fears were coming true, that the Knights and the Mage had already escalated into a full-scale conflict within the region. Hansen secretly thinks the whole situation is already a massive hack, especially since he's been forced to drag the sheltered young master along. Seeing the look on Bernard's face, he's even more convinced that bringing him was a terrible idea. He's exhausted from constantly babysitting such a spoiled brat. However, when they finally reach the source of the smoke, they discover it's not a battle at all. Instead, the Knights are actually assisting Ian while he takes a bath out in the open, a situation that has Ian himself feeling extremely uncomfortable and nervous. Bernard and Hansen burst onto the scene, but Hansen quickly tells the young master to stop in his tracks the moment he realizes nothing dangerous is happening. It is, quite literally, just a bath. Both of them stand there utterly dumbfounded. Neither can fathom how anyone could casually bathe the outside in the open like this. Even so, Bernard remains suspicious, convincing himself there must be something deeper going on beneath the surface. He begins scanning the area intensely for any hidden meaning or secret behind the scene. Suddenly, he starts shouting that as the son of the Lord of Riverville, he has every right to a complete explanation of everything happening here, demanding a full briefing. He immediately throws a childish tantrum, while Ian watches the whole scene with an increasingly uncomfortable expression. The old knight, whose name is Elder, calmly offers to explain the situation, but Bernard arrogantly cuts him off. He snaps that he wasn't asking Elder anything, he wants Ian himself to answer. His disrespect toward Elder is blatant. Bernard then proudly introduces himself as the heir to the family before rudely ordering Ian to get out of the bath and show him some proper respect. Ian immediately realizes this behavior matches something Kathy once told him about. In this world, nobles apparently practice a strange tradition known as mage baiting, a custom where they intentionally provoke mages to test their power and temperament. If a mage silently tolerates the insults, people view them as weak, but if the mage reacts with fierce anger, they are acknowledged as truly powerful. Realizing that Bernard is likely trying to provoke him on purpose, Ian refuses to obey his demands. Bernard instantly explodes into another fit of rage, screaming about how Ian dares to defy a noble like him. Ian fires back calmly, stating he has no obligation to listen to a spoiled little boy. Furious beyond belief, Bernard orders his knight to capture the mage immediately, although the knight himself seems more interested in calming the brat down than actually attacking Ian. At that point, Ian decides enough is enough. He admits to himself that he could tolerate the childish provocation from earlier, but being treated like a fraud crosses the line. Rising from the bath, he unleashes both his dark and light magic at once, causing trash bins, axes, and other nearby objects to float ominously in the air around him. Hansen quickly tries to smooth things over by apologizing for the young master's disrespect and assuring Ian that they fully acknowledge his strength now. Ian finally relaxes slightly, believing this display should be enough to make Bernard back down. Unfortunately, he's dead wrong, as the kid immediately erupts into yet another tantrum. This time, Ian genuinely begins to fear that the spoiled noble might actually try to have him executed, leaving him with little choice but to cooperate for now. The following day, Ian visits the castle, where the Lord of Riverville personally shares tea with him and apologizes for the trouble caused by his son's behavior. Ian politely replies that he should be the one apologizing, as he may have taken things a bit too far himself. The Lord then asks if Ian arrived with his companion, but Ian explains that she has other matters to attend to, and is staying at the inn for the moment. In reality, he knows Kathy is staying under the protection of the Knights for her own safety. The conversation soon shifts toward Ian's background, and the Lord asks for the name of Ian's master. Ian answers that his master is Lord Aledith, a name the Lord of Riverdale immediately recognizes. He explains that Aledith is known as one of the rising stars of the Academy. Curiously, he asks if Ian's master ever spoke about the South, where the Magic Academy is located. Their discussion then drifts toward politics, with the Lord asking if Ian plans to travel toward the Principality of Palgar or the Principality of Roxolin. Ian admits he has no idea what those places even are, prompting the Lord to explain that tensions between the two territories have been growing increasingly dangerous lately. Apparently, the Principality of Palgar has begun setting its sights on Roxolin, and Ian quickly realizes this likely means war may soon erupt between the nations. The Lord then asks if Ian plans to head south as well, but Ian explains that he is actually traveling east in search of a certain mystery. Ian explains that he's actually traveling east in search of a specific mystery. Hearing this, the Lord decides to offer him a gift. Ian is a bit confused when a chest is suddenly placed in front of him, but the Lord encourages him to open it. Inside, Ian discovers a staff resting in the velvet. The Lord explains that the staff once belonged to a renowned aeromancer, and is called Wings Gate. As Ian carefully picks it up, he instantly notices how perfectly it seems to suit him. Although it looks like nothing more than an ordinary staff on the outside, holding it feels like finally obtaining the perfect prop for a real mage. He genuinely appreciates the gesture. The Lord explains that the gift should be considered a token of gratitude for Ian forgiving his son's outrageous behavior. Ian sincerely thanks him and happily accepts the gift. However, the moment he returns from the meeting, he suddenly hears someone desperately screaming his name. Ian instantly goes on high alert. He rushes toward him in a panic and announces that something terrible has happened. She then reveals a raven that she has trapped. Seeing that it is only a bird, Ian finally calms down, and Kathy smiles in relief. The old man explains that a hunter caught the bird earlier that morning, and was planning to cook and eat it, but Kathy stopped him and took the crow away before he could do anything. Ian realizes that Kathy is completely serious when she explains that, to her, the bird reminds her of Ian because they both have black hair. Somehow, it feels like fate itself brought the crow to them, so she could never allow someone to eat a raven like that. Kathy is practically glowing with excitement while Ian apologizes to the old man for all the trouble she has caused. He casually tells them they should just go ahead and eat it anyway, which completely crushes Kathy. She cannot believe how cold he is being towards such a helpless creature. While Ian tries to calm her down, the knights are already stoked at the thought of getting an easy lunch out of it. And, suddenly, Ian hears a voice begging him to save it. He immediately tells the others to hold up for a moment before carefully picking up the raven, only to realize that the creature is desperately pleading for help. Ian begins speaking to the raven and quickly notices that, even though the bird cannot understand his words, he can somehow understand the raven perfectly. He realizes that the Maroonius language does not work properly here, possibly because the creature lacks enough mystery for the magic to connect completely. He tries concentrating harder, but the raven keeps panicking and repeating itself over and over again until Ian finally snaps. He angrily tells it to shut up because he is already going to save it, and does not need to hear the same desperate plea 100 more times. The raven instantly goes silent. Ian thinks that even if the crow cannot understand his language properly, it definitely knows how to read the room and stay quiet. The knights stare at him in disbelief, because the mage is casually speaking to a crow as if it were another human being. Ian explains that the raven is begging him for help, and Kathy becomes overjoyed because now her beloved crow is going to survive. She beams happily, and says she knew from the beginning that the bird was special. Elder comments that the young lady seems capable of sensing mysteries in the same way Ian can, and Kathy becomes even happier hearing herself compared to him. Ian then carefully heals the crow's broken wing, and Kathy happily says that the injury should recover quickly now. After that, she asks what they are going to do with the bird, because if they simply return it to the hunters, it will just end up getting eaten anyway, and saving it would have meant nothing. Ian thinks quietly for a moment while looking into the crow's eyes, and the raven once again begs him not to abandon it because the humans around here are terrifying. Even though Ian thinks the creature is unbelievably annoying, he still sighs and places it on his shoulder. Kathy immediately asks if they are really taking it with them, and Ian replies that they are at least until its wing fully heals. Kathy lights up with excitement and insists that they need to give it a proper name. She throws out several suggestions, but Ian dislikes every single one of them, so eventually, he decides on the name Oberon. Kathy immediately loves it, and from that moment onward, the crow becomes known as Oberon. The bird proudly declares that they may now bask in the honor of serving him, and Ian instantly thinks that the crow is already becoming far too cheeky for its own good. Kathy then suggests that perhaps they should continue traveling together with the knights, because she has realized it would be much safer than wandering around alone as just the two of them. Ian thinks about her words carefully and realizes that she does have a point. Ordinary bandits would never dare attack a group protected by the Knights of Santiago. Still, he wonders whether it would even help them if the knights are not heading toward the same destination. Before he can think any further, Elder walks over and asks why they both look so worried. As he sits beside them, he explains that regardless of how talented Ian may be as a mage, traveling alone with a woman is still extremely dangerous. Because of that, he proposes a deal regarding a dangerous monster that has recently appeared within Count Katina's territory. Elder explains that while traveling there, the knights plan to hunt down a creature known as the Manticore, brutal magical beast infamous for slaughtering humans simply for pleasure. Surprisingly, Ian already recognizes the name, and asks whether Elder truly expects his help against something that dangerous. Elder quickly explains that they do not actually want to force him into combat and would never drag him into danger against his will, although if Ian voluntarily wishes to help them, nobody would stop him. Ian immediately refuses because he has no intention of risking his life against a horrifying monster like that. However, Elder quickly stops him, and clarifies that the real reason they need him is something entirely different. He explains that when the Order announced their intention to hunt the Manticore, a priest from Count Katina's territory practically forced a local mage to cooperate with them. Naturally, the mage became deeply offended by this treatment, and now the knights want Ian to smooth things over. Since Ian is also a mage, Elder believes his words would carry far more weight than anything the knights themselves could say. Ian considers the proposal carefully, and realizes that it is not actually a terrible arrangement. If all he has to do is calm down one irritated mage in exchange for protection, and an escort from an entire knightly order, it could be extremely useful for both him and Kathy. Eventually, he accepts the offer. Soon afterward, they continue their journey together, and Ian quickly realizes that traveling alongside the Knights of Santiago is surprisingly comfortable. The members of the order are disciplined men with strong principles, and compared to the chaos he usually experiences, the journey becomes almost stress-free. Still, if he has one complaint, it is that nearly every single knight constantly tries to convert both him and Kathy to their religion. At first, the conversations are tolerable, but before long, the endless preaching becomes repetitive, exhausting, and irritating. Ian has no interest in abandoning his own beliefs simply because someone else insists upon it. Later that night at the campsite, Elder quietly sits beside him and comments that it is a shame. Ian immediately asks what he means by that. Elder explains that if only Ian could hear the voice of God, then perhaps he could become a cleric for the order. He explains that clerics are essentially church mages who wield the mystery of faith itself. Ian thinks deeply about those words, and wonders if someone could truly speak to God, then perhaps he could finally ask about his strange status window, and the real reason he was reincarnated into this world in the first place. Curious now, he approaches Dietrich and asks if he can study their holy book as well. After some time, Dietrich patiently teaches Ian how to read passages from the Bible and even compliments him for being so open-minded toward their faith. However, Ian suddenly loses interest, and Dietrich notices the strange shift in his expression, asking what is wrong. Ian replies that Dietrich just complimented him a moment ago, yet Dietrich instantly becomes alarmed and insists that he never said anything at all. Confused, Ian swears that he clearly heard a voice speaking directly to him. That's when he suddenly realizes the voice didn't sound human in the slightest. Then, another strange voice whispers into his ears, calmly suggesting that perhaps the speaker isn't a being that could even be called human at all. Ian is left completely confused about what exactly is happening to him. He realizes that the voice speaking inside his head might actually be the one who brought him here, so he immediately shouts and demands an answer. He keeps piling on questions, asking this supposed creator about the status window, and why he was thrown into this world right after he had barely graduated. As his irritation keeps rising, a sudden gust of wind passes through, and just like that, it feels as if the mysterious creator has already left without responding. Our guy gets frustrated and starts going off, demanding that she come back and answer him properly. Meanwhile, the Santiago Knights struggle to hold him back as they practically beg him to calm down. A moment later, Ian suddenly gets an idea, and quickly flips through the divine book, hoping it might give him another chance to reach that voice again. As he continues reading, the status window suddenly appears with a notification informing him that he has acquired a new skill called Holy Arts. It states that this skill will allow him to communicate with the creator of this world. Right after that, more notifications begin to flood in, telling him to show greater interest if he wants to satisfy the creator. Seeing all this, Ian begins to question whether the owner of that voice is truly the one who dragged him into this world and granted him this ability. The more he thinks about it, the more he feels like some kind of puppet being controlled and laughed at. He wants to rush things and confront her directly, but his holy arts level is still too low to start any real conversation. In the end, he gives up for now, deciding that he will have to uncover more mysteries and gather enough points to level up his holy arts. A few days pass during their journey, and at one point, a group of bandits tries to ambush them. The knights handle the weak amateurs without much trouble, and then check on Ian, asking if he is fine. Ian responds that he is safe and asks the elder if he is alright, since they were the ones actually doing all of the fighting. The elder laughs it off, and says that no matter how much of a geezer he turns into, he is still not going to lose to some amateur bandits. Ian takes the chance to ask him more about his past, bringing up that he heard the man used to be a mercenary. The elder admits it and says that even if he looks like an old man now, he was once a hotshot known all around. He explains that he had to start using the alias Elder, because whenever people heard his real name, they would come after him just to gain attention and make a name for themselves. Hearing this, Ian starts wondering if the man really was that famous. After the bandits are taken care of, one of the knights reports to the elder, and informs him that the road ahead splits into two paths. He explains that the eastern path leads to the Count's castle, while the western path goes toward the Manticore area. The old man then tells Ian that the mage he mentioned lies somewhere near the Manticore area, and points in that direction, telling him to hurry. Ian stops the group for a moment, and suggests to Kathy that they should first go meet the mage before heading to the Count's place. Lucy immediately refuses, and says she will go alone instead. Ian gets concerned and asks if she will be alright on her own. She smiles and responds that she is not a child, and she is confident that the eastern path will take her straight to her uncle's place. She waves goodbye, and leaves without hesitation. Watching her go so casually makes Ian uneasy, as he wonders if she will really be fine. He then decides to deal with the mage as quickly as possible so he can check on her before anything goes wrong. The old man asks the boy why his sister left without him. Ian simply replies that he will catch up to her soon and quickly shifts the topic back to the mage. The old man leans over Ian's shoulder and asks if he is mentally prepared to face what is coming. He tries to scare him by explaining how dangerous mages can be and adds that the one they are about to meet is already upset because of the order. Ian questions why the knights are the ones cleaning up the order's mess, and the old man casually replies that they are paid a heavy amount for it. That answer makes Ian realize why all the knights are wearing such shiny and expensive armor. Then, the old man shows a bit of sympathy and reassures him that since Ian is also a mage, the other mage might calm down once she sees his face. Ian starts wondering what kind of person she might be, since this will be his first time meeting a mage other than his master. Meanwhile, the female mage named Moni Campbell, who looks more like an unpleasant witch, is seen stirring a pot of soup. The scene shifts back to some time earlier, when the Order approached her and asked for her magic to help capture the Manticore. The Order behaved rudely and told her to feel grateful since the forest was under their control. This attitude makes Moni angry, and instead, she offers them a chance to try her cooking if they want her help. She uses the horrible smell of her soup to scare them off, and it ends up working. As the story shifts back to the present, the knights and Ian arrive close to the witch's place. The elder informs him that the mage they are about to meet is Moni Campbell and introduces her as a well-known plant sorcerer. He continues by explaining that she can control plants freely, and is even capable of brewing extremely deadly poisons from them. The elder then adds that the real reason they came here is to obtain her poison, which they need in order to hunt down the Manticore. Just then, a terrible smell spreads through the air, making the knights quickly cover their noses in disgust. Moni appears, laughing in a casual yet wicked manner, and says that she has been waiting for them, and is pleased to see that they actually return to try her delicious soup. She presents them with a bowl of her chicken garlic soup that smells awful and is clearly dangerous. The knights keep their noses covered while reluctantly holding the foul-smelling bowls in their hands. When the elder tries to explain that they did not come here to test her strength through such a dish, Moni responds that her rare meal is made from the finest ingredients she personally harvested. She then tells them that they are free to leave if they do not wish to accept her hospitality and taste her cooking. While the knights struggle and even start vomiting from the smell and taste, Ian casually drinks the soup in large gulps, finishing one bowl after another without hesitation. Apparently, he ends up liking the taste so much that he cannot stop himself from eating more of it, which makes Moni grow concerned as she watches him keep devouring her poisonous-looking dish without slowing down at all. When Ian calmly tells the lady mage that it actually tastes good, Moni finds it hard to believe what she is hearing. Ian goes on to mention that he really likes the amount of garlic she added into the soup, and continues eating it without any hesitation. Moni and the knight start getting uneasy at this sight, and she quickly steps closer to him. Insisting that she's seen enough. She admits that in her 40 years as a plant sorcerer, she's never encountered anyone quite this ridiculous. Then, she looks him in the eye and directly asks for his name. As soon as Ian reveals who he is, Manny is visibly startled and rushes to confirm if he's truly the apprentice of the legendary pyromancer, Alatif. She immediately apologizes for her earlier behavior and, desperate to save face, quickly whips up a luxurious feast for him and the knights. Ian still low-key prefers the chicken soup, but he decides to just roll with it instead of making a scene. Manny then shifts into a more serious tone, asking if they were actually planning to hunt the Manticore. She warns them that it's a suicide mission, reminding them how the winged beast has already slaughtered several hunters previously sent by Count Karena. The old man responds that he's more than ready for the job. Seeing his confidence, the witch asks if he's ever actually taken down a Manticore before. The old man nods, replying that he has, but it was a long time ago, back in his prime. She then turns to Ian and asks if he's ever faced one himself, adding that she expects him to be a top-tier mage, since he was trained by a legend. She goes on to request that Ian lend his strength to the knights during the hunt. Hearing this, our boy drifts into his thoughts. He recalls his master's teaching a mage should get involved in people's problems even if it's inconvenient, and such matters must always be treated with gravity. As he reflects on those words, Ian feels like there's no real reason for him to go out of his way to hunt a dangerous winged lion. However, the thought of refusing the request and having rumors spread through the mage circle makes him hesitate. The mage circle is an organization formed to regulate the use of the mysteries, and Ian doesn't want to ruin his reputation there. He worries that declining might piss off his master or lead to other mages ghosting him when he actually needs help later. Seeing that he has no other choice, Ian agrees to join the hunt. The next day, he travels with Manny and the knights toward the forest, all while hoping Kathy will be okay on her own. While he's thinking about Kathy, his pet crow, Buran, returns with intel. He's located the winged lion and points out its exact location. When Ian reports this to the old man, The veteran is impressed by how Ian uses crows for scouting on the fly. Ian has managed to get Oberon accustomed to human speech, allowing them to communicate directly. As they close in, the leader of the Santiago Knights feels a strange pressure in the air, and goes on high alert. Ian then asks if the old man can try to persuade the Manticore, since it's technically a monster. The old man has no idea how to respond, while Manny immediately shuts the idea down. She says the winged lion isn't something you can just reason with. Getting a bit panicked, she asks what Ian knows about summoning, warning him that she'll report him to his master if he tries anything that reckless. Ian briefly wonders if he should be getting some praise for his efforts instead of a lecture. Just then, one of the knights points ahead. They've finally encountered the beast. Everyone freezes like statues, not daring to move a muscle. Our boy tells the others not to twitch, and to stay close to him. Just then, Dietrich walks up to the old man and reports that the poison weapons are ready, handing over arrows coated in deadly liquid. The knight leader orders his men to fire, and a volley of arrows whistles past him. Meanwhile, Ian watches the situation unfold in silence. As the poison-tipped arrows fly, our hero suddenly locks in. The projectiles bounce right off the monster's hide without leaving a scratch. He quickly relays this to the old man, who grabs his head in pure frustration. While Dietrich asks for their next move, evil laughter echoes through the area just as another attack is about to be ordered. The monster finally reveals itself, and poor Oberon looks like he's about to pass out from sheer terror. Ian realizes that with the monster right in front of them, there's no time to prep more poison arrows. Seeing no other choice, he looks up at the sky, and lets out a powerful roar using Maronius. Everyone falls silent, and Manny notes that the kid actually managed to pull it off. Even the Manticore stops in its tracks, and the two stand face to face. The monster is intrigued that a human can speak its language, remarking that Ian isn't like the others. Forcing himself to stay steady, our boy keeps a polite tone and introduces himself. However, the monster immediately cuts him off, telling him to shut up and drown in a puddle. Hearing that, Ian drops the polite boy act and asks what kind of abomination he's even looking at. The Manticore seems pleased by the directness, saying that's more like it. He tells the human to be straightforward if he wants to know something. Matching that energy, Ian says he wants the monster's head. The answer makes the creature laugh out loud, saying he likes the kid. He then offers the mage a deal, telling Ian to join forces with him and tear those filthy humans apart. The idea shocks Ian, but the Manticore keeps rambling about how much he'll enjoy the taste of human flesh. He tells the boy he can have as many women as he wants, and once Ian is done with them, the Manticore will eat them too. The monster starts getting hyped up by the thought, but our boy cuts him off with a disappointed sigh. Spitting on the ground in front of the beast, he says the idea is too disgusting to even consider. Ian and Oberon both throw up their middle fingers and unleash insults that would give the creature's mother a heart attack. Dietrich tries to speak, clearly nervous, but gets cut off as the Manticore squares up to fight. Switching to the common tongue, it thrusts its paw forward like a spear and declares that Ian is a human worthy of being killed by its hand. Our hero is shocked that the monster can speak the common language, and freezes in surprise. Manny reacts instantly, casting a spell and stumping her foot on the ground. Plants grow rapidly, forming massive vines that rise up like a wall, separating them from the beast. However, the old man doesn't calm down. Instead, he starts scolding Manny for her move. She looks confused, saying she trapped the monster, but the old man reminds her that his men are trapped on the other side as well. She pauses for a second before arguing back that the knights aren't helpless, and will manage somehow. Suddenly, the old man freezes as he hears a scream from the other side of the wall. Worried for his men, he runs off while the other two shout for him to stop. A short while later, they reach the spot, and he immediately asks if everyone is still alive. The mood turns grim, as a knight says they survive, but Dietrich is badly injured. Lying there in pain, the loyal knight apologizes for letting the monster escape, but the Santiago Knight's leader cuts him off and holds him tightly. Ian feels like he's about to break and clenches his fists. After being reborn, he never expected to see someone die right in front of him, especially someone like Dietrich. Past memories flash through his mind as he struggles to accept how real this all feels. It finally hits him in this world. Monsters and war are the norm. The deaths he once only read about in stories are now happening right before his eyes. Refusing to just stand there, he adjusts his cloak and walks toward his fallen ally. Kneeling beside him, he asks Dietrich if he remembers what he was taught during Bible study, that if someone truly believes and prays with sincerity, the heavens will find a way. The words bring tears to the knight's eyes as he whispers yes. Ian then tells him they should pray together. Ian then says they should pray together as a blue light begins to spread around them. In his mind, he calls out to the heavens, stating that their devoted follower is dying helplessly in front of them, and asking if they intend to do nothing. A voice answers that his call has been heard and offers to intervene since Ian asked so nicely. The entire area fills with a brilliant blue light, temporarily blinding everyone. The old man calls out to him, but then trails off before he can finish his sentence. Meanwhile, our hero lets go of his comrade's hand and looks at his own, unsure of what exactly is happening. The scene then shifts to a bright, ethereal place where a voice calls out to Dietrich and tells him to wake up. A woman dressed in white extends her hand toward him, which catches him completely by surprise. The man realizes that this must be the creator he has been praying to all this time. As she descends and stands before him, she tells him that she is glad to see him here. Dietrich immediately bows his head, feeling overwhelmed by the gravity of the moment. The Holy Lady tells him that his life's work is not finished yet. He looks confused and repeats her words, trying to process their meaning. However, the Holy Lady extends her hand again and tells him to spread her message even further and to help those who are in need. Most importantly, she tells the loyal knight that he must help her apostle, Dian. Just then, Dietrich wakes up in the real world to the sound of his master calling out his name. He sits up and asks what just happened. Our boy says his name as he walks up to him and asks how it feels to be reborn. The knight immediately starts crying and holds on to Ian's hands tightly. He says that our hero saved him because the creator must have ordered it. Our hero gives a nervous smile, remembering that he was only able to use holy arts because the Holy Lady allowed him to borrow her power. He asks how the knight knew that, and Dietrich explains that the Holy Lady told him he still has much to do in this world. Remembering the words of the great being, the knight shouts in excitement and starts calling Ian a holy apostle. The other knights assume that he might have taken a hit to the head and agree to keep an eye on him for a while. Watching this scene unfold, Moni comments that they seem very cheerful for people who were close to dying just moments ago. Seeing his men back in good condition, the old man asks if they are ready to fight the Manticore again. Our hero sends Oberon ahead to scout the area first so they can understand the situation better. The knight leader becomes concerned that something might happen to the bird, but Ian dismisses the worry. Leaving him confused, our hero tells the squad that the Manticore is not some run-of-the-mill, low-level thug, so they need to be fully prepared to deal with him. The scene then shifts to the Manticore, who is busy attacking a nearby town and chasing humans through the streets. The young man is leading his father away from the monster, but the old man suddenly slips and falls to the ground. The son calls out to him, but it is already too late as the Manticore moves in for the kill. Before the monster can bite down, the young man grabs a pitchfork and tries to scare him away from his father. He holds the weapon up even though his whole body is shaking uncontrollably. The Manticore understands that the old man is his father, and makes him a cruel offer. He tells the man to kill his own father, and in return, he will spare everyone else in the area. The young man refuses the offer, and tells the monster to go die. The Manticore does not seem bothered by that response at all. He simply raises his paw high and prepares to slice them apart. The father and son hold on to each other, ready to accept their end. But at that moment, an arrow flies in, and strikes the monster directly in the eye. The Santiago Knight's leader rushes forward, and deflects the incoming attack while the Manticore screams in pain. The father and son finally get a moment to breathe as the old knight shouts for his men to get ready. The soldiers move in quickly while the Manticore glares at them, shouting that they are rushing toward their deaths. However, Ian calls out to the monster and calls it an idiot. Having mastered the secret arts of rage baiting, he claims the Manticore as only delaying his unavoidable defeat. The monster shouts back at him to be quiet, but our hero continues, wondering aloud if this is how a defeated dog sounds. The rage bait works perfectly, as the Manticore charges straight at Ian at full speed. At the last moment, our hero smiles as Moni steps forward and raises her staff. She activates another plant growth spell, which wraps the monster tightly in vines. The old man then orders his men to act, and they throw clay bottles at the trapped Manticore. The beast becomes even more furious as he gets covered in a strange liquid. Meanwhile, Moni tells Ian that it is his moment to shine. Our boy steps forward and activates his fire magic with a simple snap of his fingers. The Manticore realizes too late that the liquid is actually oil and is immediately engulfed in flames. His screams slowly die down while Ian shows no reaction, mocking his enemy until he is nothing more than crispy bits. After everything is over, the citizens step forward to show their gratitude to the knights, who calmly claim they were only carrying out their duty. From the background, our boy throws a cold stare at the Santiago Knight's leader, watching the senile old geezer soak in all the praise. Oberon looks at him with innocent eyes, and sarcastically asks why his great master is not getting the respect he deserves. Ian tells the annoying little fluffball to zip it and wonders if his display of roasting a Manticore alive with fire magic actually intimidated the citizens instead. Right then, he is genuinely caught off guard when a young man and his grandfather step forward to thank him for saving their lives. He freezes for a moment, unsure how to react, since he never expected anyone to thank him in the first place. A wide smile spreads across the old man's face as he notices that reaction. The knight leader suddenly bows in gratitude to the mighty mage who saved everyone from the big, bad Manticore. Ian awkwardly responds that he only followed Moni's commands, so there is no need for him to bow like that. That response surprises the knight leader, who did not expect such humility to match Ian's skills and presence. In his experience, kids like him usually grow up into heroes whose reputations make them seem more noble than actual nobles. Soon after, a group of guards approaches the knights and asks if they are the ones responsible for taking down the beast. Instead of answering directly, the Santiago Knights leader demands that the fools state their identities first. The men apologize and explain that they are guards from the Count's castle. Our boy is surprised when they invite both of them directly to the Count's mansion. Once there, the knights are welcomed with a banquet worthy of their achievement. Lucy's drunk uncle loudly praises their strong sense of justice, applauding them for fearlessly slaying such a dangerous, unholy beast. The old man grins and casually claims it was nothing special for warriors of their level. His words clearly make the Count a little jealous, wishing he had guards like them protecting his estate. The man ignores the fact that his own guards are standing right there listening. Next, he starts buttering up the witch, promising he will do everything in his power to make sure no priests ever step foot in her forest again. Then, his expression suddenly turns serious, as he looks at Ian, mentioning he has heard quite a lot about him from his niece. The man is left stunned when he sees the kid is far too busy stuffing his face with meat and bread to even notice he is being addressed. When his little buddy finally points out that the important-looking man is speaking to him, Ian throws a cold stare at the scumbag who just interrupted his 3-course gourmet meal. Firmly grabbing a loaf of bread like it belongs to him, he casually apologizes for not paying attention, because the food is simply too good to ignore. Hearing that, the Count pretends to overlook his earlier disrespect. Instead, the man applauds him for keeping Lucy safe. As a reward, he orders his butler to open a chest. Inside, there is a brightly glowing magic scroll. It is said that powerful spells are inscribed onto such scrolls, which release their stored magic the moment they are torn. Seeing such a rare item right in front of him, our hero is completely dazzled. Holding the fine paper in his hands, he carefully observes the inscriptions written across it. The Count smirks and asks if the gift he specifically arranged for him meets his expectations. Our hero expresses his gratitude for such an incredible reward, but the Count replies that it is only fitting for the hero who safely brought back his precious Lucy. With a snap of his fingers, the doors to the banquet hall swing open. Right then, the noble girl walks in wearing a beautiful dress, along with a ridiculously long magician's hat that's half her height. That goofy-ass hat nearly makes our guy choke as he struggles to hold back his laughter. As Lucy takes a seat beside her uncle, Ian wonders where she even found such a ridiculous cosplay piece. Shyly locking eyes with her hero, Lucy softly asks how he has been. After watching the way the two look at each other for just a second, the Knight's leader teasingly reminds him that he once called her his sister. Judging from her expression, she clearly sees him as something more than that. Moving forward, the Count offers a proposal to our magician. He wants Ian to accompany Lucy on her mission to take revenge on the bastards who hurt her. The Count firmly requests that he join his men to ensure the mission's success. Our boy quickly realizes that the magic scroll was not exactly a free reward. It was clearly bait meant to pressure him into accepting the offer. Still, a mage's role of casting spells from the backline is not too dangerous, so he is not completely against the idea. On top of that, if things go well, he could earn a hefty reward from Lucy and her uncle. Staying humbled as always, he agrees if they believe a lowly mage like him can be of help, then he will join them. 3 days later, everyone, including Lucy, gathers outside the Count's mansion. Lucy explains that the Count is busy with preparations, but he will give them a grand welcome once they return. The Santiago Knights leader simply smiles and says he is looking forward to it. Meanwhile, our boy feels annoyed that their squad lost several capable men, all thanks to the Count shamelessly bribing them away with his treasures. Right then, the old man suddenly thanks him for sticking by his side the entire time. He promises that he has a surprise waiting for him when he visits Trafar Island. Seeing him confused by the unfamiliar name, the leader explains that it is a floating island in the Coral Sea, and the locals will welcome him warmly if he mentions the name Salvador. Surprised, Ian asks if Salvador is actually his name. Deciding it is finally time to reveal it, the elder calmly states that his name is Salvador and he hails from the Orcas family. While Ian does not immediately grasp the importance, Lucy instantly recognizes the name Salvador of the White Wolves. The old man lets out a humble, amused laugh at his old title. Meanwhile, our boy stands there feeling completely left out of the conversation. Realizing he is clueless, Lucy explains to the Morin that he is standing before the former leader of the Emperor's private mercenary team, the White Wolves. Their leader was so skilled with the sword that rumors say the Emperor himself granted him the title of Swordmaster. That means they are currently in the presence of a living legend. Oberyn and Ian don't give a damn, however, both staring blankly like it is no big deal. Shocked by their reaction, Lucy hypes the old man up. She is confused why Ian is not losing his mind and doing backflips over breathing the same oxygen as someone of that level. On the other hand, Salvador does not look too surprised by Ian's dull reaction, since he more or less expected it. Even so, He does enjoy when people flock around him and go crazy after learning his true identity. With that, the sword master and the witch prepare to depart. One of the knights grabs our boy's hands, getting overly emotional as he asks if they will ever meet again. Before they leave, Salvador shakes Ian's hand and promises to meet him again on the floating island. The old man then wishes him safe travels until that day comes. Later, the Count steps onto a stage to address his army. Each step feels heavier than the last as memories of his niece's request to avenge her mother run through his mind. Never in his wildest imagination did he expect Graham to make a move on Lucy after what he had already done to her mother. Even so, marrying Lucy off to one of his trusted retainers would turn her into a powerful political shield. His territory would become far more secure, and he would gain more control over the barony. With that in mind, the Sly Man plans to have a private talk with his niece once things calm down. After that, the Count delivers a powerful speech, firing up his soldiers to put an end to the injustice and crimes carried out by Graham. Later that night, the knights set up camp. Some of them, including Lucy, are genuinely confused. I wonder if he hit his head somewhere along the way, they think. Instead of cooking food, he is just sitting there boiling his spoon. The noble girl tries not to judge, and wonders if he comes from some poor place where spoons are a delicacy. A few knights in the distance start spreading rumors that the master mage is a psycho who drinks spoon soup. Irritated, our boy tells Lucy that he is disinfecting the spoon. The big word flies straight over Bird Brain's head. He then brushes it off, saying it is too complicated for her to understand anyway. That only makes the knights more curious, thinking he is preparing some mysterious and delicious dish. They end up annoying him even more by asking if they can add their meat into his special soup. After dinner, Lucy admits she has been thinking about something for a while, but she is still unsure. When he asks what she means, she reminds him about the reward she promised earlier. The noble girl looks completely lost when deciding what to give him, saying he is probably tired of receiving gold coins all the time. The broke guy is left speechless, but he lets her continue talking about a reward she believes is truly worthy of someone like him. She shares a legend that says the fairies once gifted the first Baron of Tarion a magic sword. Apparently, that fairy fell in love with him after he saved their realm. Lucy is completely enchanted by her ancestor's story, but Ian is not buying that low-tier romance tale at all. He questions why the Tarion family was never granted a higher title than Baron if they possessed such a legendary weapon. That instantly cracks her little fantasy, and she awkwardly admits that all of this happened hundreds of years ago. Then she adds that there is just one teeny tiny problem standing between her and the sword. It is buried inside the first Baron's grave, which means they will have to rob it to get their hands on it. Shocked, our boy just stares at the unhinged girl who casually expects him, a complete outsider, to rob her own great-great-grandfather's grave. Even then, he asks if she is really fine with giving away such a priceless family treasure, since her family could clearly use it to strengthen their barony's reputation. He tries to convince her that there are better ways to use it, but Lucy just pouts in anger. The noble girl snaps, explaining that he gave her a second chance to fight back. Her hands tremble, as she says everything he did changed her life, so he deserves a reward of equal value. She stands up, embarrassed, and clearly upset that he is making light of something she put so much thought into. Calling him a dense dum-dum, she storms back to her tent. After hearing all that, the guy with the eye. He heads back to her tent after hearing all that. The guy with the eye of a rice cooker finally realizes he should have handled things better. Right then, a red-headed knight calls out to him, asking if he can have a moment of his time. At the same time, a farmer nearby is threatening to beat the life out of some knights if they dare steal from him. The scummy dirtbags just mock him, saying they might consider leaving if he hands over a few chickens. One of them jabs a finger into his chest, claiming that knights marching to war cannot survive without food to fuel them. However, his arrogance disappears the moment he spots a crow landing on a nearby tree branch. He immediately recognizes it as the master magician's pet. Out of nowhere, Oberon starts warning them that the master is coming. While the three idiots are still shocked that the crow can talk, our boy casually greets them from behind. Trembling, the trio slowly turns around with stiff expressions, instantly realizing they are screwed. Our boy coldly asks what the hell they think they are doing. You see, he had a meeting with the Count before they were deployed. The Count's hesitation made him think the request would be something serious, but to his surprise, the man simply asked him for a favor. He needs to deal with his poorly disciplined mercenaries who go around robbing citizens. Our boy is confused because that sounds more like a job for the knight. The Count lets out a deep sigh and explains that the knights and mercenaries are too close. They are brothers in arms, so they cover up each other's crimes. At first, he let it slide since it kept the mercenaries occupied, but now they have gotten bold, openly stealing, and doing it in the territory of his precious niece. He quietly judges the uncle who begged him that night to give them a warning, hoping it would straighten them out. Now standing under his stabbing gaze, the three knights huddle up like conjoined twins. He declares that it is time these stray mutts who dig through trash pay the price for stealing from their own people. The three wet their pants when our master mage says he will cancel their life subscription to set an example. By the next morning, news of his warning spreads everywhere. The mercenaries are so shaken that they refuse to even step outside. His actions make the Count and his niece happy, relieved that their people can finally feel safe. However, the red-haired knight is bad news. He calls for a direct meeting with the Count to point out a serious flaw in their strategy. The soldier bluntly states that, in their current condition, they are nothing more than prey for Grimes' army. Surprised, our boy asks if he really believes that, even with 400 trained soldiers on their side. The knight repeats that they are no longer soldiers, they are harmless prey. He explains that earlier, their men used to pillage Grimes' territories. During raids, their constant looting and oppression would push the citizens to protest against Grime, keeping his forces distracted. But ever since they stopped harassing the civilians under Ian's pressure, the situation has flipped completely. The townsfolk are now calm, there is no unrest, and everything is stable. That means Grime can focus entirely on gathering his forces in the background, putting them at a massive disadvantage. On top of that, ever since the troops were put in line by our Master Mage's punishment, their morale has taken a serious hit. Hearing all this, our protagonist realizes they are stuck in a pretty bad situation. The grim update gives the Count a splitting headache as he struggles to come up with any kind of solution. Running out of options, he turns to our hero for help. They cannot afford to lose this war, or the usurper might take everything. This time, with a worried look, Lucy also turns to him full of expectation. Even under that pressure, he calmly argues that the situation is not completely hopeless when he's around. His reassuring words instantly lift their spirits, making both uncle and niece eager to hear the master speak. At the same time, the soldiers standing behind the red-haired knight glare at him like he just slapped their mom. A suspicious duo clearly does not trust his overconfident attitude and looks like they are plotting something on the side. The next morning, our boy heads to a farmer's house. The farmer starts yelling at the visitor, and his annoying crow, who keeps making noise outside his door. The moment he opens his, our boy steps right into his face with a dead-eyed stare that scares the life out of him. In a strong voice, he demands to know if the man owns the wheat field. Confused and annoyed, the farmer snaps back, asking him to reveal his identity first. A nearby knight quickly introduces him as the apprentice of the Master Mage Aladith, Lord Ian. That instantly drains the color from the farmer's face, who realizes he just insulted a lord. He immediately drops to the ground, pressing his fat mug into the dirt while begging Lord Ian to forgive his ignorance. With the stage set, our protagonist smoothly moves to the next step of his plan. He declares that the crops are already doomed, leaving the poor farmer desperate for an explanation. Slamming his staff hard into the ground, he roars that the curse of the first Baron of Tarion has befallen his wheat. Fully committing to the act, he lowers his voice and explains that the curse strikes any land that was taken from the rightful owner. Thinking his entire livelihood is about to vanish, the farmer desperately begs for a solution, or at least something he can do. Right then, our boy tells him to quiet down. He suddenly acts like he senses something, and his eyes widen in shock, like he's receiving a divine doom from heaven. Raising his hands dramatically, he declares that the heavens have revealed the only way to lift the curse. If the rightful heir, Lucy Taran, becomes the Baron, the first Baron's anger will finally be put to rest. With that message delivered, he and the knights quickly leave the scene, claiming he has detected another curse nearby. The farmer nearly wets himself as our boy leaves, dropping a final warning that the entire land will turn barren under Grime the usurper's rule. After repeating that same act a few more times in different places, rumors about the curse spread like wildfire among the people. Soon enough, the common folk begin protesting, demanding that Grime step down, and let Lucy take the crown so they can be saved from the so-called curse. At the same time, his galaxy brain strategy also boosts the army's shattered morale. However, some of the more suspicious soldiers on the inside do not look happy about any of this. Late here that evening, they take their complaints directly to the Count. Confused by their strange attitude, the Count demands to know what exactly has them so worked up. The soldiers argue that their master mage played dirty by spreading rumors about their homeland being cursed. They claim it is completely unacceptable to serve under a mage who curses their own land. Baffled by these absolute idiots, our boy asks if they are seriously dumb enough to believe the nonsense he made up right in front of them. The Morans still push back, saying his shady tactics are exactly why they cannot trust him. At that moment, he realizes his plan backfired. The moment he told one lie, they started treating everything he says like another lie. He lets out a tired sigh, already fed up with the brain-dead complaints these clowns keep throwing at him. At the same time, he understands that the knights are the backbone of their army, so they cannot simply be ignored. One look at the Count's troubled face confirms that the man knows he has to meet their demands to keep their trust. Deciding to make things easier for him, our boy takes the initiative and steps forward. If they do not want an untrustworthy mage around, then he has no problem leaving on his own. The knights are left frustrated, clearly not expecting him to make that move. But then he hits them with another blow. He makes it clear that they should not come crawling back to him for help later, because if he walks away now, He is not coming back.